Oh my God. You smell that, Brenda? Something just walked in off the street. Tyler didn't even look up from his phone. Just wrinkled his nose toward the door. Brenda leaned over the counter chuckling. Snorts, sir, this isn't a charity. You got money or just browsing? The man in the white hoodie said nothing. Walked forward quietly, hands at his sides. Hey, I'm talking to you. Deaf or slow? The man glanced at the menu, voice low, steady. Southern breakfast platter. Scrambled extra toast, please. $14.99, you sure? The man placed a 20 on the counter. No expression, no reaction. Just calm. These two had no idea who they'd just humiliated. And what they were about to do behind that counter, it would cost them everything. That morning started quiet. Michael Davis woke up at 5:30 in his home in Buckhead, Atlanta. The house was large, but simple. No marble columns, no golden fixtures. Just clean lines, warm wood, and framed photos lining the hallway. One photo showed a 26-year-old Michael standing in front of a tiny diner with a hand-painted sign, Golden Spoon Diner Grand Opening 2006. Another showed him shaking hands with the governor at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. A third was a framed Forbes cover, self-made, how a dishwasher built a $90 million diner empire. He walked past all of them without looking. He'd seen them 1,000 times. In the bathroom mirror, he studied his reflection. Then he reached for the white hoodie hanging on the back of the door. Jeans, sneakers. Just casually dressed, nothing flashy. Watch, no ring, no cologne. He opened the garage. A black Mercedes SUV sat next to a 2018 Honda Civic with a small dent on the rear bumper. He grabbed the Civic keys. This was something Michael did twice a year. No announcement, no schedule. He called it the real menu. He'd walk into one of his own 38 Golden Spoon Diner locations dressed like a man who had nothing. And he'd see exactly how his staff treated people who looked like they didn't have much. Before backing out, he clipped a tiny body camera inside the hoodie pocket. The lens was no bigger than a pencil eraser. Angela Brooks, his chief operations officer, was already at the Atlanta office watching the feed on her laptop. She had a legal team on standby. Michael pulled out of the driveway. The morning sun hadn't fully risen. The streets of Buckhead were still and empty. 40 minutes later, he parked the Civic in the lot of the Golden Spoon Diner in Decatur, Georgia, a suburb east of Atlanta with a diverse working-class population. Saturday morning, 9:15. The breakfast rush was winding down, but the lot was still half full. He sat in the car for a moment. Through the window, he could see the diner's interior. Checkered black and white floors, red vinyl booths, a jukebox in the corner that played Motown on a loop. He had designed every detail of that space himself. He wanted it to feel like his grandmother's kitchen. Warm, safe, a place where anybody could sit down and feel welcome. He stepped out of the car. The air smelled like warm syrup and coffee grounds drifting from the kitchen vent. A bell above the front door chimed softly when he pushed it open. Inside, the diner was alive. A family of 4 sat near the window. The mother adjusting a napkin on her daughter's lap. 2 white college students shared a stack of pancakes by the jukebox. A Latino couple with a toddler waited near the register. Behind the counter stood 2 cashiers. Tyler Wilson, white, late 20s, leaning against the back wall with one earbud in. He was scrolling his phone and chewing gum with his mouth open. His uniform shirt was untucked. Brenda Taylor, white, early 30s, standing at the second register. She was whispering something to Tyler. Both of them laughed. The Latino couple stood at the counter waiting. Neither cashier acknowledged them. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. The husband cleared his throat politely. Brenda glanced up, exhaled through her nose, and said flatly, "What do you want?" No smile, no greeting, no eye contact. Then, not 15 seconds later, a young white couple walked through the door. Tyler immediately straightened up, pulled out his earbud, and smiled wide. "Hey, welcome to Golden Spoon Diner. What are y'all in the mood for today?" Same counter, same minute, completely different service. Through the kitchen pass-through window, a woman named Lorraine Moore watched it all. She was the morning cook, black, mid-50s, had worked at this location for 6 years. Her hands moved steadily over the grill, flipping eggs, but her jaw was tight. She had seen this scene play out hundreds of times. She had filed 2 formal complaints about Tyler and Brenda to the regional manager. Both disappeared. The regional manager was John Wilson, Tyler's uncle. Michael stood just inside the door, observing everything. His hands hung loose at his sides. His face showed nothing. Then he walked to the counter. And that's when Tyler opened his mouth. Brenda leaned over his shoulder to watch. She folded her arms and raised one eyebrow. "Got to check these days," Tyler said, loud enough for the nearest booth to hear. "You just never know with some people." Michael said nothing. His hands stayed at his sides. He watched. Tyler slapped the bill on the counter and punched the order into the register. His fingers moved quickly. Too quickly. Michael caught the screen just before it flipped to the total. $14.99 for the platter. Tax. Then a third line that had no business being there. Special preparation fee. $3.50. Total. $18.49. Michael tilted his head. "What's the special preparation fee?" Tyler didn't look up. "Standard charge. Everybody pays it. I've eaten at other Golden Spoon Diner locations. Never seen that charge on any receipt." Tyler planted both palms flat on the counter and leaned in close. His voice dropped. Not to a whisper, but to the kind of low that dares you to say one more word. Maybe those locations run things their way. "Here, that's what it costs. You want the food or not?" A woman in the booth behind Michael glanced over. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. She looked away quickly, pretending she hadn't heard. Michael held Tyler's gaze for 2 full seconds, then nodded once. "I'll take the food." Tyler made change from the 20. He didn't count it out. He shoved the coins across the counter with the back of his hand. 2 quarters and a penny rolled off the edge, hit the tile floor, and spun in small circles before going flat. Tyler looked down at the coins on the floor, then back up at Michael. His mouth curled into a lazy smirk. "Oops." Brenda pressed her hand over her mouth. A muffled laugh slipped through her fingers. Michael bent down without a word, picked up the coins one by one, and slid them into his pocket. Then he walked to a booth near the kitchen pass-through window and sat down quietly. Under the table, he texted Angela. "Fake surcharge on my order. $3.50. Not in our system. Keep recording." Angela replied in 4 seconds. "Confirmed. Legal is watching the feed live." The diner hummed around him. Forks scraped against ceramic plates. Low conversations blended with the hiss of the grill through the kitchen window. Motown drifted from the jukebox. Marvin Gaye, something slow and smooth. The smell of melting butter, crisping hash browns, and fresh coffee swirled together in the warm air. Michael folded his hands on the table and waited. 7 minutes later, the white couple who ordered after him received their plates. Brenda carried both out with care, set them down gently, and smiled wide. "Y'all enjoy now. Let me know if you need anything. Their eggs were golden and steaming. Toast thick cut, slick with butter. Grits piled high with a glossy pat melting into the center. Michael was still waiting. 5 more minutes, 12 total. Brenda finally brought his plate over. One hand carrying it, the other resting on her hip. She dropped it on the table with a thud that rattled the silverware. No words. She turned and walked away without looking back. Michael looked down at his plate. The eggs were overcooked. Dry, rubbery. Edges browning like they had been sitting forgotten. The toast was 2 heel-end slices. The hard ends nobody wants. Barely warmed through. The grits were a thin smear at the bottom of the bowl. Not enough to fill a single spoon. 2 booths over, a white man his age was eating the exact same platter. Fluffy eggs flecked with pepper. Golden buttered toast. A full steaming bowl of grits. Same menu, same kitchen, same cook, same price, completely different plate. Through the pass-through window, Lorraine Moore saw his food leave the counter. Her spatula stopped mid-flip. She had cooked that order herself. Eggs scrambled soft. Bread sliced from the center of the loaf. Grits filled to the brim. What sat on that table was not what she made. She looked toward the front. Tyler was leaning against the back wall, arms crossed, watching Michael with a lazy knowing grin. Brenda slid behind the register and whispered. Tyler shook with a short, ugly laugh, like a dog barking once. Michael picked up his fork. Cut into the eggs, chalky, cold in the center. He chewed once, set the fork down, and pushed the plate forward. Didn't complain, didn't wave anyone over, just sat watching the room, cataloging. Then the front door chimed again. An elderly black woman stepped inside. She moved slowly, one hand bracing the door frame for balance. She wore a neatly pressed floral dress and a small hat pinned to the side, the kind women wear to Sunday church, a thin gold chain at her collarbone, purse hanging from the crook of her arm. She walked to the counter with careful, steady steps. Brenda was wiping the register screen, eyes fixed downward. "Excuse me, dear," the woman said softly. "Could you tell me what the soup of the day is?" Brenda kept wiping. 5 seconds. 10, 15. The woman stood perfectly still, waiting with the patience of someone who had waited like this her entire life. "Excuse me," she said again, slightly louder. Brenda finally looked up with a long, theatrical sigh, the kind designed to make another person feel like a burden. "Ma'am, can you speak up? I cannot understand a single word you're saying." She had been speaking clearly. Everyone within 15 feet heard her just fine. "I was just asking about the," Tyler cut in from behind without even turning around. "Maybe try the kids' menu, simpler choices for simpler folks." Brenda bit her lower lip. A laugh escaped through her nose, a small, ugly The old woman's fingers tightened on her purse strap. Her chin dipped slowly toward her chest. Her lips pressed together, not in anger, but in the quiet rehearsed way of someone who learned long ago that certain rooms were not built for people like her. She turned and walked out without ordering. The bell chimed softly behind her. That small sound hung in the air like a sad fading note that nobody wanted to hear. Nobody called after her. Nobody cared. Michael set his mug down, jaw tight. He pulled out his phone. "Angela, tell me you saw that." Every second. She was a regular. She knew the layout by heart. Been coming here for years. "What do you want to do?" "Not yet. I need to see everything." He sipped his coffee, lukewarm and bitter. He swallowed it anyway. Minutes later, Michael walked toward the restroom at the back. The narrow hallway was lined with framed photos of Golden Spoon Diner's early days. The first location, the first staff photo, the first newspaper review mounted behind glass. Frames he had chosen himself for every location across the southeast. On his way back, the kitchen door was cracked open a few inches. Lorraine Moore stood just inside, spatula in hand, apron and dusted with flour. Her dark eyes locked onto his through the gap. She looked left. She looked right. "Don't eat the grits," she whispered. Michael stopped. "I saw what he did." Her voice trembled. "Right before your plate went out. He turned away from the window, but I saw his hands hovering over the bowl. He put something in there." Cold crawled down the back of Michael's neck. "I've tried reporting them." Lorraine went on, words tumbling faster like water breaking through a crack. "Twice. Wrote it all down, gave it to the regional manager. Both times, nothing. He's Tyler's uncle. The complaints just vanished." Her eyes were glassy, not crying, just the exhausted look of someone who had been carrying something too heavy for too long, completely alone. Michael looked at her steadily. His voice was quiet and certain. "Thank you. I hear you. I promise you that." She nodded once, fast, blinked hard, and stepped behind the kitchen door. It swung shut with a soft creak. Michael returned to his booth. The grits sat untouched, glistening dully under fluorescent light. He pushed the entire plate to the far edge of the table. He picked up his phone one final time. "Angela, full legal standby. Call the health department. Pull every complaint filed at this location in the past 14 months. Every single one. Already ahead of you. Team is moving." Michael set the phone face down on the table. He folded his hands. His posture hadn't changed. His voice hadn't risen once since he walked through that door. But behind his eyes, something had shifted. He wasn't just watching anymore. Michael stayed in that booth for the next 45 minutes. He ordered a second coffee just to have a reason to sit. And he watched. What he saw was not random. It was a system. A black father walked in with his young son. The boy was maybe 6, holding his dad's hand, eyes wide at the jukebox in the corner. Tyler rang up their order without a greeting, without a smile, without once looking the man in the eye. The total came out $5 higher than the menu price. When the father asked about it, Tyler shrugged. "Prices went up last week." They hadn't. Michael knew every price on that board because he approved them himself. A Latina woman ordered a sweet tea to go. Brenda filled the cup halfway, snapped the lid on, and slid it across the counter without a word. The woman looked at the cup, clearly half empty, but said nothing. She took it and left. 3 minutes later, a white teenager ordered the same sweet tea. Brenda filled it to the brim, smiled, and said, "There you go, sweetheart. Same drink, same cup, same Brenda. Different customer." Michael pulled out his phone under the table and opened the calculator app. Based on what he had observed, the fake surcharges, the inflated prices, the portion manipulation, he estimated Tyler was skimming roughly $200 to $300 per shift. Brenda was helping him cover it by voiding the surcharges in the register after each customer left, making the drawer balance at the end of the night. It wasn't sloppy. It was organized. And it had clearly been going on for months. Through the pass-through, Lorraine watched it all. She flipped burgers and scrambled eggs and said nothing. Because the last 2 times she said something, nothing changed, except the way Tyler looked at her afterward. Then the front door swung open hard. A young black man walked in, college age, maybe 20 or 21. He wore a university hoodie and had a backpack slung over one shoulder. He stepped toward the counter, pulling out his phone to check the menu. Tyler straightened up immediately. He pointed at the backpack. "Bag stays at the front, store policy." The young man looked confused. "What?" Your bag, leave it by the door, store policy. Can't have people walking around with bags in here. There was no such policy. Golden Spoon Diner had never had a bag check policy at any of its 38 locations. Michael had never written one, never approved one. It did not exist. The young man hesitated. He looked around the diner. Then he slipped the backpack off his shoulder and set it reluctantly by the front door next to the umbrella stand. 15 seconds later, a white man in his 30s walked in carrying a large leather messenger bag over his shoulder. He walked right past Tyler to a booth and sat down. Tyler said nothing about the bag, didn't even glance at it. The young black man saw this. He was standing at the counter waiting for his food and he watched the whole thing happen in real time. He turned to Tyler. His voice was quiet but firm. You didn't ask him about his bag. Tyler's expression changed instantly. The lazy grin disappeared. He stepped out from behind the counter, closing the distance between them until they were barely 2 feet apart. You got a problem? Tyler's voice was low and hard. Because I can call the cops right now. They love dealing with guys like you. The young man's jaw tightened. His eyes dropped to the floor. He didn't say another word. When his food came, he grabbed it, picked up his backpack and walked out the door without looking back. The door swung shut behind him. The little bell barely made a sound. Michael set his coffee down. His hand was steady, but his knuckles had gone pale around the mug handle. He stood up. He walked to the counter. Every step was measured, calm, deliberate. The soles of his sneakers barely made a sound on the checkered tile. He looked Tyler directly in the eyes and said, "Do you treat all your customers this way? Or just the ones who look like me?" The diner went quiet. A fork stopped scraping somewhere behind him. The jukebox between songs left a gap of silence that felt enormous. Tyler blinked. Then his face hardened. He squared his shoulders and leaned across the counter. What did you just say to me? Brenda picked up the store phone immediately. She held it like a prop, her finger hovering over the buttons. Should I call someone? Michael didn't move. I'd like to speak with your manager. Tyler let out a single, sharp laugh. I am the manager on shift, and my uncle's the regional manager. So, good luck with that, pal. Michael nodded slowly. All right. He turned as if to walk back to his booth. Tyler called after him. Hey, you don't like how we do things here? The door is right there. Nobody's keeping you. Michael didn't respond. He sat back down. And that should have been the end of it. But Tyler wasn't finished. He picked up the phone behind the counter. He dialed. His voice was casual, practiced, the voice of someone who had done this before and knew exactly how to sound. Yeah, hi. I've got a customer here being aggressive, refusing to leave, making threats to my staff. Can you send someone out? Michael hadn't raised his voice once. He hadn't moved toward anyone. He hadn't made a single threat. He had asked one question. But Tyler was building a story and Brenda was helping him build it. She stepped out from behind the register and started performing for the room. Her voice went loud, shaky, theatrical. Sir, we asked you to leave nicely. We don't want any trouble. Please, just calm down. Michael was sitting in a booth with his hands folded on the table. He hadn't spoken in 30 seconds. But the scene was already being set. 2 white employees, 1 black customer, a phone call to police, a narrative that would write itself the moment a cruiser pulled into the lot. 2 customers near the window pulled out their phones and started recording. An older white man in a trucker cap shook his head slowly. A black woman with 2 kids quietly gathered their things and moved to a booth farther from the counter, pulling her children close. The tension in the room was thick enough to taste. The grill hissed behind the kitchen window. The jukebox clicked to a new track, but the music felt far away now, like it belonged to a different room entirely. 4 minutes later, a Decatur police cruiser pulled into the parking lot. The lights weren't flashing, but every single head in the diner turned toward the window. Officer Trent Adams walked through the front door. Mid-40s, broad shoulders, close-cropped hair. One hand rested casually on his belt. His eyes swept the room quickly, reading the space before anyone spoke. Tyler was already moving. He came around the counter, gesturing toward Michael's booth, his voice urgent and righteous. "That guy right there. He's been harassing my staff, refusing to leave, getting aggressive. I had to call because I was genuinely worried about everyone's safety." Officer Adams looked at Michael. Michael hadn't moved. His hands were still folded on the table. His coffee sat half empty in front of him. "Sir," Adams said, walking over, "I'm going to need to see some ID." Michael reached into his pocket slowly. He pulled out his driver's license and placed it on the table. Adams picked it up, read the name, looked at Michael's face, looked at the license again. Then he turned and looked at Tyler, who was standing behind him with his arms crossed and his chin raised high. "Officer," Michael said calmly, "I asked one question about the service here. I haven't raised my voice. I haven't threatened anyone. I haven't refused to leave." Adams looked around the room. The 2 customers with phones were still recording. The older man in the trucker cap caught the officer's eye and shook his head slowly. A small, clear gesture that said everything without a single word. Nobody in that diner backed Tyler's story. Not a single person. Adams turned to Tyler. His tone shifted. Still professional, but noticeably cooler. "I don't see a disturbance here. I'm going to need to talk to both of you separately." Tyler's confident expression cracked, just slightly. A flicker behind his eyes, like a man realizing the script he had rehearsed might not play out the way he planned. But it was already too late for scripts. Because through the diner's front window, a black SUV had just pulled into the parking lot. And the woman stepping out of it was about to change everything. The front door opened and the bell chimed one more time. Angela Brooks stepped inside. Navy blue blazer, pressed white blouse, black heels that clicked sharp against the tile with every step. She carried a tablet in one hand and a leather folder in the other. Behind her, 2 men followed. Broad-shouldered, calm-faced, wearing black polo shirts with a small gold logo on the chest. The Golden Spoon Diner logo. Corporate security. Every conversation in the diner dropped to a murmur. Even the jukebox seemed to go quiet, as if the room itself understood something was about to shift. Tyler glanced at the door. He didn't recognize any of them. He stepped forward, chest puffed, still riding the adrenaline of his performance. "Ma'am, we're in the middle of a situation here. You're going to have to wait." Angela didn't look at him. She didn't slow down. She walked past the counter, past Officer Adams, and stopped directly in front of Michael's booth. "Mr. Davis," she said. Her voice was clear and loud enough for the entire room. "We have everything on the feed. Legal has reviewed the footage in full. We're ready whenever you are." Tyler's mouth opened slightly. His eyes darted from Angela to Michael and back again. "Mr. Davis." Angela turned to face Tyler and Brenda, who stood frozen behind the register with the phone still in her hand. "My name is Angela Brooks. I am the Chief Operations Officer of Golden Spoon Diner Incorporated." The words landed in the room like a hammer on glass. Tyler took a half step backward. His hand dropped from his hip. Brenda set the phone down slowly, as if it had suddenly become too heavy to hold. Michael stood up from the booth. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He reached up to his hoodie collar and unzipped it halfway, revealing the tiny body camera clipped inside the pocket. The lens, no bigger than a pencil eraser, had been recording every single second since he walked through the front door. He looked at Tyler, then at Brenda. Then he spoke. "My name is Michael Davis. I'm the founder, owner, and CEO of Golden Spoon Diner. Every location. Every menu. Every paycheck." He paused. "Including yours." Absolute silence. No forks. No grill. No music. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and Tyler's breathing getting heavier by the second. Tyler's face went from red to white in under 5 seconds. His lips moved, but nothing came out. Then, finally, a broken stammer. "Wait, that's not I didn't know you didn't know what?" Michael's voice was still calm, but there was iron underneath it now. "You didn't know the man you insulted, overcharged, and called the police on built this place from a single frying pan and a $500 loan? You didn't know the man whose food you tampered with signs your paycheck every 2 weeks?" Tyler had no answer. His mouth hung open like a door with a broken hinge. Brenda's hands were shaking against the counter. She pressed them flat to stop the trembling. It didn't work. Angela stepped forward and turned the tablet around so the screen faced the room. Split-screen footage. The left side showed Michael's body camera. Every insult, every smirk, every fake surcharge punched into the register captured in crisp detail. The right side showed the diner's own security cameras. The angles Tyler and Brenda had apparently forgotten existed or assumed nobody ever bothered to review. Tyler pocketing cash after voiding surcharges. Brenda helping cover the voids. Tyler's hands hovering over Michael's grits before the plate went out. The elderly woman mocked and turned away. The college student forced to surrender his backpack while a white customer walked past unchecked. 4 months of footage exposed in 4 minutes. Officer Adams watched the screen without moving. His jaw tightened. When the food tampering clip played, his hand moved instinctively toward the notepad on his belt. Snorts, he turned to Tyler with a very different expression than the one he had walked in with. Tyler tried one last move. His voice cracked, desperate, reaching for the only lifeline he had ever known. "My uncle, John Wilson, he's the regional manager. Just call him. He'll sort this out. He'll explain everything." John Wilson, Angela said, cutting him off cleanly, was placed on administrative leave 45 minutes ago. "Our legal team is already in direct contact with him regarding suppressed employee complaints and falsified performance reviews." She let that settle for a long moment. "There is no one left to call, Tyler." Tyler's knees buckled slightly. He caught himself on the edge of the counter with one hand. Brenda let out a short choked sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Officer Adams closed his notepad and looked at Angela. "I'm going to need a copy of that footage, the food tampering specifically. That's a potential felony under Georgia state law." Angela nodded. "Already prepared. Your department will have it within the hour." Michael stood in the middle of his own diner, surrounded by the silence of 2 people whose entire world had just collapsed in under 3 minutes. He didn't gloat. He didn't shout. He didn't smile. He just looked at Tyler, the man who had told him the soup kitchen was 2 blocks down, and said quietly, "You had a good job. You had a paycheck. You had customers who trusted you. And this is what you did with it." Tyler said nothing. For the first time all morning, he had absolutely nothing to say. Tyler broke first. His whole body seemed to deflate, shoulders dropping, chin falling, hands sliding off the counter. He took one step toward Michael, palms up, voice cracking into something meant to sound like remorse. "Mr. Davis, look, I was just having a bad day. I swear I didn't mean any of it. It was jokes. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Michael looked at him the way you look at someone who just insulted your intelligence and expected you to thank them for it. A bad day, Michael repeated. We have footage going back 4 months, Tyler. 4 months of fake surcharges. 4 months of stolen cash. 4 months of customers humiliated because of the color of their skin. 4 months of Lorraine Moore filing complaints that your uncle threw in the trash. He let each sentence land like a stone dropped into still water. That's not a bad day. That's who you are when you think nobody's watching. Tyler's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His eyes were wet. Not from guilt, but from fear. The kind that hits when you realize every exit is locked and you threw away the key yourself. Then Brenda tried. She stepped from behind the register, tears streaming, hands clasped in front of her chest. Her voice came out high and trembling. I didn't want any of this. Tyler told me what to do and I was scared of losing my job. I just went along with it. I never wanted to hurt anyone. Angela opened the leather folder. She pulled out 3 printed screenshots, time-stamped, highlighted in yellow, and laid them on the counter one by one. This is you laughing after an elderly woman left the diner in tears. First screenshot. This is you voiding a fraudulent transaction while Tyler counted cash behind you. Second. And this is you whispering instructions about which customers to target. Angela looked her in the eyes. You weren't a bystander, Brenda. You were a partner. Brenda grabbed the counter and sobbed loud, ugly, shaking. Nobody moved to comfort her. Michael straightened his back. His voice carried the weight of a man who had made decisions like this before. Tyler Wilson and Brenda Taylor, you are both terminated immediately from Golden Spoon Diner Incorporated. Gross misconduct, theft, discriminatory conduct, and health code violations. Final paychecks will be mailed. You are not to return to this or any Golden Spoon Diner location. Officer Adams stepped forward. I'll need both of you to remain available for follow-up. The food tampering footage alone is a potential felony. Tyler didn't fight. He walked toward the door with his head down, flanked by 2 corporate security officers. His footsteps were slow and heavy on the checkered tile. The same tile he had stood on all morning, like he owned the place. Brenda followed, still crying, clutching her purse. The door swung shut. The bell chimed. The same cheerful sound it always made, but this time it sounded like a period at the end of a very long sentence. A few customers began to clap, slowly at first, then louder. The older man in the trucker cap nodded once toward Michael. The black woman who had moved her children to the far booth wiped her eyes. Then Michael turned toward the kitchen. Lorraine Moore stood behind the pass-through window. She hadn't moved, spatula still in hand, apron still dusted with flour. But her face had changed. She looked like someone watching a locked door swing open for the first time in years, afraid to believe it was real. Michael walked to the kitchen entrance and spoke gently. Lorraine, you tried to do the right thing. Twice. You filed complaints that should have been heard, and the system here failed you. That ends today. She blinked. Her lips trembled. I'd like to promote you to shift supervisor of this location, effective immediately. Every complaint you filed is now part of a formal corporate investigation. Your voice matters. It always did. Lorraine's spatula slipped from her hand and clattered against the steel counter. She pressed both palms over her mouth. Then the tears came. Not the desperate panic tears Brenda had cried moments ago, but the quiet, deep, shaking kind that only come when something you stopped believing in finally happens. She had worked at this diner for 6 years. 6 years of cooking good food, keeping her head down, hoping someone would listen. Someone finally did. The story didn't end when Tyler and Brenda walked out that door. In many ways, it was just beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, Golden Spoon Diner's internal legal team brought in an independent auditor to tear the Decatur location apart. Every receipt, every register log, every voided transaction, every employee file, every security backup. What they found was worse than even Michael had expected. Tyler's surcharge scheme had been running for 14 months. Not weeks, not a few bad shifts, 14 consecutive months of fake fees, inflated totals, and pocketed cash. The total amount stolen came to $58,000. Brenda had been directly involved in at least $22,000 of that. Voiding transactions, adjusting register totals, and making sure the numbers looked clean at the end of every shift. But the rot went deeper than 2 cashiers. John Wilson, Tyler's uncle, the regional manager responsible for overseeing this location and 11 others across the greater Atlanta area, had received 3 formal written complaints from staff members about Tyler and Brenda's conduct. 3 complaints submitted through proper channels with dates, details, and signatures. All 3 had been buried, filed away in a locked drawer that nobody ever opened. Lorraine Moore's 2 complaints were among them. Handwritten, detailed, and completely ignored. John had also falsified Tyler's performance reviews for over a year. On paper, Tyler was a model employee, punctual, professional, customer-focused, highly recommended for promotion. The reviews read like fiction because that's exactly what they were. When confronted by Golden Spoon Diner's attorneys, John's only response was, "He's family. I was trying to give him a chance to grow." A chance to grow? 14 months of theft and discrimination, and he called it a chance to grow? The Decatur Police Department moved quickly once Angela delivered the footage. Within 72 hours of the diner incident, detectives had reviewed every minute of body camera and security footage, and cross-referenced it with the auditor's financial records. The charges came down hard. Tyler Wilson was charged with theft by taking, felony food tampering under Georgia state law, filing a false police report for calling officers on Michael under completely fabricated pretenses, and civil rights violations related to discriminatory service practices. His bail was set at $35,000. He couldn't make it. Brenda Taylor was charged with accessory to theft and conspiracy to commit fraud. She was released on her own recognizance, but ordered not to leave the county. John Wilson was charged with obstruction, falsifying business records, and conspiracy to commit fraud. He surrendered himself at the Decatur precinct on a Tuesday morning, wearing a pressed suit and a blank expression that said he still didn't fully understand how his nephew's behavior had become his own criminal case. Meanwhile, the story had already escaped the walls of the diner. One of the customers who had been recording during the confrontation, the moment Tyler called the police, the moment Angela walked in, the moment Michael revealed who he was, posted the video to social media that same Saturday afternoon. By Sunday night, it had 4 million views and climbing. By Monday morning, a local Atlanta news station picked it up. The headline ran across the bottom of the screen in bold white letters. Golden Spoon Diner CEO goes undercover, catches employees stealing and discriminating on camera. By Tuesday, the story had gone national. CNN ran a 3-minute segment. NBC covered it during their morning broadcast. Social media flooded with reaction videos, commentary threads, and one clip of Michael's reveal that had been looped and shared so many times it became its own cultural moment. The quiet, steady voice of a man in a white hoodie saying, "I'm the founder, owner, and CEO of Golden Spoon Diner, including yours." Michael held a press conference 2 days later at Golden Spoon Diner's corporate headquarters in Atlanta. He stood behind a podium with the company logo on the wall behind him. The same logo stitched into the polo shirts his security team wore when they walked into that diner. He announced 3 immediate changes across all 38 locations. First, mandatory anti-discrimination training for every single employee, from cashier to regional manager, to be completed within 60 days. Second, a confidential employee complaint hotline that reported directly to the corporate office, bypassing regional managers entirely, so that no complaint could ever be buried in a drawer again. Third, the creation of a customer advocacy fund seeded with $500,000 of Michael's personal money to support customers who experience discrimination at any food service establishment in the Southeast. Then he said something that made the entire room go still. There was a woman who came into my diner that morning. An elderly woman in a floral dress and a church hat. She walked up to the counter and asked about the soup of the day, and two of my employees laughed at her until she turned around and walked out the door. He paused. The room was silent. Her name is Dorothy Anderson. She has been a Golden Spoon Diner customer for 4 years. We found her through our loyalty program. I called her personally last night. His voice softened. She will receive a lifetime dining pass to any Golden Spoon Diner location in the country. And she received a personal apology. Not from my PR department, from me. 3 months later, the cases went to trial. Tyler Wilson was convicted on all counts. The felony food tampering charge carried the most weight. Prosecutors presented the body camera footage alongside lab results from the grit sample that Michael had preserved and handed over to police that same afternoon. The judge called Tyler's conduct a calculated pattern of cruelty disguised as casual indifference. He was sentenced to 3 years in state prison and ordered to pay full restitution of $58,000. Brenda Taylor accepted a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to accessory charges and received 18 months of probation, 200 hours of community service at a local food bank, and a permanent mark on her criminal record that would follow her into every job interview for the rest of her career. John Wilson was convicted of obstruction and falsifying business records. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and permanently barred from holding any managerial position in the food service industry in the state of Georgia. Golden Spoon Diner's legal team also filed a civil suit against all three for damages to the company's brand, lost revenue, and reputational harm. The case settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. Separately, 12 affected customers identified through register logs, security footage, and loyalty program records joined a formal civil rights complaint with the Georgia Commission on Equal Opportunity. The case was later cited in a statewide training module distributed to over 3,000 food service establishments across the state. The system that had protected Tyler, enabled Brenda, and silenced Lorraine had been dismantled completely, publicly, permanently. And it all started with a man in a hoodie ordering scrambled eggs. 6 months later, the Golden Spoon Diner in Decatur looked like a different place. Not the walls, not the checkered floors, not the red vinyl booths or the jukebox in the corner still playing Motown on a lazy Saturday loop. Those were the same. Michael had designed them to last, and they did. What changed was the feeling. Lorraine stood behind the counter now. Not hiding behind the pass-through window. Not whispering warnings through cracked kitchen doors. She was the shift supervisor. Her name tag said it. Her posture said it louder. She greeted every customer who walked in, and she meant it every single time. The staff around her were new, diverse, trained properly. They smiled because they wanted to, not because someone was watching. The kitchen smelled like fresh biscuits and real butter, and the coffee was always hot. Every Saturday morning at 9:15, an elderly woman in a floral dress and a small church hat walked through the front door. Dorothy Anderson. She didn't hesitate at the entrance anymore. She didn't brace herself for what might come from behind the counter. She walked in like she belonged there. Because she did. "Morning, Miss Dorothy," Lorraine would say. "Your usual?" "Yes, baby." "The soup. And some of that cornbread if you got it." "Always got it for you." Dorothy would sit in the booth by the window. The same one she used to sit in before two cashiers made her feel like she wasn't welcome in her own neighborhood diner. Now she sat there with her soup, her cornbread, and a lifetime dining pass that she kept tucked in the front pocket of her purse like a badge of honor. One Saturday in late spring, the front door opened and a man walked in. Not in a hoodie this time. Navy suit, polished shoes, a watch on his wrist that caught the light. Lorraine looked up. Her eyes went wide. Then she smiled. The kind of smile that starts deep and reaches the surface slowly. Michael Davis walked across the checkered floor of his diner. Lorraine came around the counter, and without a word, she hugged him. He hugged her back. Neither of them said anything for a long moment. They didn't need to. He stood outside afterward looking up at the Golden Spoon Diner sign. The same sign he had designed himself 20 years ago. Back when this whole thing was just a dream held together by a frying pan and a $500 loan. He thought about the 14-year-old version of himself. A kid washing dishes in a diner that looked a lot like this one in a town that didn't look much different from Decatur. A diner where some days the owner wouldn't even let him eat the leftover food. He built Golden Spoon Diner because he wanted every person, regardless of what they looked like, where they came from, or what they were wearing, to walk through the door and feel like they mattered. What John did was a betrayal of trust. But what Lorraine did, refusing to stay silent even when no one listened, that was the reason the mission survived. The people who abuse small amounts of power are always the ones most terrified when real authority walks through the door. And the people who stay silent when they see wrong, eventually, they become part of the wrong. But the people who speak up, even when it's scary, even when nobody seems to be listening, even when the system is broken and the complaints disappear, those are the people who change everything. Who you are when nobody's watching, that's the only version of you that matters. Not the smile you put on for your boss, not the handshake you give to important people. The real you is the one that shows up at 9 a.m. a random Tuesday when you think nobody cares and nobody checking. And here's what most people don't realize. Some people are always watching. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But eventually the truth comes out. It always does. Every shortcut, every lie, every person you mistreated because you thought you could get away with it. It always comes back. Not because the universe is magical, because people remember. And one day the wrong person remembers at the right time. So, do yourself a favor. Be the same person in every room. Treat a man in the hoodie the same way you treat with the man in the suit because you never know who's standing in front of you. But more importantly, because it's the right thing to do whether everyone's is watching or not.